Hi, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to set up level 2. Now, in our last video, we created the system to move from level 1 into a level 2, but our level 2 is just an empty white space right now. And I think it's worth taking a video kind of going step by step how we set up a level. Now, we've done all of this for level 1, but we did it in kind of bits and pieces. So we're going to do it all in one tutorial. And there are some steps to setting up a level in the right way. Right now, if we look at our layout is just empty, right? And if we look down in our layers window, we have one layer, which is called layer 0. What we're going to do is we're going to add different layers for different things, starting with the background. I'm going to right click over here in the layers window, and I'm going to add a layer at the bottom. And I'm going to call this background. And what I can do is I can find my tiled background over here in the object type list. Mine's called dirt background. If you want to use a different tiled background for the second level, something that's different than the first level, you can. I'm going to use the same one, and I'm going to drag it and drop it into the layout. Now you want to make sure that you have the right layer selected. You don't want to drop this into layer 0. You want to drop it into the background layer. Once you drop it in though, you'll notice that you can't really see it, right? You can see it on the outside, but you can't see it in the actual layout itself. There's a big white square in the way. The reason for that is because layer 0, whenever you make a new layout, it comes in with a white background attached to it. What we need to do is make layer 0's background transparent. And to do that, you simply have to click on layer 0, and then you look over here on the left side, and you'll see under appearance, there's an option for transparent. If you click on transparent, that means that there's no background color, and instead we can just see the background down below. Great. Now we can stretch out the background, the tiled background to fit whatever space we want. There we go. And once we have it set up, I recommend locking the background layer. You click that little lock next to the layer. What that does is it prevents you from clicking on it, which is really nice because as we're moving stuff around and adjusting our level, having the background clickable is very annoying because you end up clicking on it by accident a lot. So you can always lock it when you have it set up, and you can unlock it if you need to change it. Great. Now let's go to layer 0 and let's drop in our player character. Go to your main character in the objects type. Mine is right here, and we can drag it and drop it in. Think about where you want the player to start this level. Wherever their player character is at the beginning is where they'll start. So I'm going to drop mine over here on the left. Now, just a quick note, if you're trying to drag and drop stuff in and it's not working, make sure you're not trying to drag it from the family. You can't drag and drop stuff in from the family there. So a lot of times I'll just minimize it and making sure that I'm dragging and dropping from the objects type list. Great. There's our player character. Let's put in our camera. I'm going to find camera, drop it in. Now, because our event sheet already has all the core event stuff included, then we can just play it and it works. So let's start thinking about how we want to set up this level. How you set it up is up to you. What do you have your level look like? Totally up to you. What I'm going to do is make kind of a long horizontal hallway. So the next thing that I want to add are barriers. I want to add like the boundaries for the game. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to add another layer here. I'm going to call it boundaries. What I'm going to do is take my boundaries sprite that I've created and drag and drop it into the game, making sure that I'm on the boundaries layer. And these red boxes just represent like where the edges are, right? With spaces that your player can't move through. Now I'm going to make this level kind of skinny. I'm going to take one there. I'm going to drop another one in. And I'll make the boundaries of the game, or at least of this level, about that size. Now what I like to do for the boundaries layer is I like to turn the opacity down. If I have the boundaries layer clicked on over here on the right, on the left, you should see an option for opacity. The lower the number in the opacity, the more kind of invisible, the more see-through objects on that layer would be. And because these barriers are just kind of the guidelines for me, I like to turn them down to maybe 20% or maybe 25% opacity. And the reason why is because these barriers are going to be invisible to the player. And instead, what we're going to put in are the sprites that we've created for the walls that sit on top of where these boundaries are. So the next step, once you have your boundaries set up, we're going to go back to layer 0, because layer 0 is where all of our visible sprites are going to be. And I'm going to start dragging and dropping my wall pieces in and setting them up so they sit right on top of the boundaries. That way I have a nice clean boundary for my player, as well as the visible sprites to communicate where that boundary is. And just take a minute and make your walls. I won't make you sit here and watch me put them all in. Maybe I'll speed this part up. Now, the next thing we want to add is the HUD. If I go back to layout 1, the HUD is the health bar that sits up at the top, right? We want to keep the HUD the same in all the levels. The HUD should always be in the same position, which is important because the purpose of the HUD is to communicate effectively to the player. And if it's in a different spot in every level, that can be really distracting. Now, there's an easy way to take stuff that's in one layer, that's in one layout, and make sure that it's the same in the other layouts as well. So in layout 1, in our first level, you want to go down and click one time on the HUD layer. Now up here on the top left, there's an option for global. Right now it says no, we're going to change that to yes. What global means is that it'll apply to all the layouts that have a HUD layer. So right now in level 1, I have a global HUD. If I go over to layout 2 and I right click, add a layer at the top and name it the same thing, HUD, HUD, then it automatically puts the health bar in the exact same position. So if I ever change anything on the health bar, anything on the HUD in layout 1, it'll automatically carry it over to layout 2 and all the other levels that I make. Let me think. I think that's it. Oh, enemies. Let's put some enemies in. For enemies, I want to make sure that they're on layer 0 too, right? That's where all of our visible things are. So I'm going to take, maybe I'll take an enemy 2 and I'll drop an enemy 2 in there. Maybe I'll take a couple of them. Great. And there's my level. We'll leave it there today. Thanks for joining. I'll see you next time.